Sometimes it's not what you're not doing. It's that someone else elevates. Siakam elevated. He was the guy that Kawhi and the Raptors needed last night, and he's the reason they won that game.
What are they saying?
I hear
Spicy P.
Spicy.
Got it. Spicy.
So I'm
Spicy.
supposed to
Got it.
sit here. I'm supposed to sit here and surround myself with folks serenading a professional male athlete whose nickname is
too.
Spicy P.
Don't hate.
Really? If I was him, I'd be embarrassed. Spicy P. I mean, even Swaggy P is better than that. I mean, come on now. Toronto, y'all, this is a phenomenal city. Oh, Lord, is this special? Okay, y'all are better than that. Spicy P. I mean, give me a
kind
break.
of with Stephen A. on
That's
that one.
whack. All right, now, having said all of that, phenomenal game on the part of Pascal Siakam. I voted for him as my most improved player of the year. I know he's special, but that wasn't the reason they lost last night. The reason they lost last night was because Andre Iguodala didn't show up offensively. He gave you nothing. And if Andre Iguodala, listen, as great as Pascal was playing, as great as, remember, Gasol played well. Remember, Van Vliet played well. And still, Golden State was within 3 in the fourth quarter. So all I'm saying to you is that if you got a guy, one other guy other than Steph and Clay, that can hit a damn shot, I believe Golden State wins game 1. So I'm looking at not taking anything away from Siakam. Somebody would have done something, or they would have done it by committee. This is what we've been saying about Toronto. What was the difference? The difference isn't that. The only difference when you look at one guy stepping up, it's usually by committee, a plethora of them. That wasn't necessarily the case last night, even though you can look at Gasol and Van Vliet and point out what they did. The biggest difference was you had no one show up as a third wheel for Golden State. That's why I point to Iguodala.
Oh, part of that is the defense that Toronto is playing. Also,
but you talked about Siakam, not the defense.
But Iguodala going into the series, like we could play that game and say, well, Kawhi also didn't have a big game. That's why they were within 3, and then because he was hurt. Then someone else could say, well, KD's hurt and he's not even playing. Like we could keep playing that game. The bottom line is, Golden State were champions for a reason, even before KD got there. And even though it was largely because Cleveland was hurt with Kyrie and Kevin Love and it still went 6 games, they were still in the finals. They're a powerhouse. With or without KD, they're a powerhouse. And they're an experienced team. So you even make the point they're within 3 anyway, right? It took a special kind of effort, both ends of the floor, from a player other than Kawhi to pick him up. Gasol had a very good game. Van Vliet had a very good game. It is a team game. But Siakam was, by far, the best player in the game last night, and that's why they won.
Toronto, one more time. Spicy P! 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 All right.
Wow.
Thank you, everybody.
Spicy P.
We just needed to do that for Stephen A. one more time. I just need to put a smile.
That's just embarrassing.
I need to see those white choppers
I mean, as
one
great
more
of a
time.
city as Toronto is,
Max,
a spicy P.
How impressed were you with Steph Curry? Because he had a game-high 34.
I got to say about Steph, and I'm nitpicking now, I would have liked to see him. I felt he asserted himself at times in that game. But when it was a 3-point game, I didn't see him do it then. Now, it's a little nitpicky because how do you get it to be a 3-point game? Because he had to bring them back from it. Like they were, as I said, Siakam was outplaying everyone. I saw positive signs from Steph Curry. I've been critical of him, particularly in finals, where I know for a fact, I could see, and the numbers support it, by the way, he has been less than his, not best self, even normal self in finals series. And that goes for his whole career. I've seen positive signs. I thought he was really assertive, Stephen A., putting the ball on the floor, drawing fouls when his team needed to, keeping his team in the game. If he continues on that trajectory, I think he can put to bed the idea that he hasn't played his best in the finals. Look, these stats that you see with Steph Curry, Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan, these are the only players to score this many. Don't give me that. The Golden State offense is what it is. He's a great player. I get it. When they've needed him most, he's been less than his normal self. I think that may be changing. I saw positive signs last night.
Definitely, if he's hitting shots, obviously, that's going to be a big deal. If he's finding himself open, moving without the basketball, that's definitely great. When they started out the game, Kawhi was on Draymond. So that kind of surprised me a little bit because you sort of, that was your first indication that he might not have been all there because Kawhi 100% damn sure would have been on one of those two, Clay or Steph Curry. So I look at it from that perspective. Watching them, I think it wasn't even the fourth quarter. It was more like the third quarter. They kept fluctuating between 6 points, 7 points, and then at one point in time they pulled within 3. But in the end, my point is they were right there to take over the game with the way Steph was shooting the ball if somebody else had showed up and made shots. And I think that's the difference. Obviously, the Toronto Raptors defense has something to do with that. But to address the subject of one particular player, we can look at Pascal Siakam and point out the excellent play that he put forth last night. Yeah. But I'm just looking along the lines of the fact that Golden State, despite not having their A game, their bench still outscored Toronto by 11, and they were in distance to really catch it, and they couldn't close the deal.
You mentioned Van Vliet. The thing about Steph and KD is they're two MVP level players because not only can they shoot the lights out, but they can put it on the floor and get their own shot, right? Yeah. There's no one really on the Golden State bench that fits that description. Like Kawhi can do that, and Kyle Lowry can do it, though he doesn't always do it in the playoffs. Van Vliet can come off the bench and do that. Golden State doesn't really have that guy, so it's really on Steph.
If only Golden State had more talent.
They need
Toronto,
more.
how much do you love Drake? That's what I thought. When we come back, we need to discuss the mogul. Does the NBA need to put an end to him on the sidelines talking a whole lot of trash? Look at him getting after Steph. I've been waiting for this topic.